Good evening. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2026. The world is exactly as we left it on Friday, only slightly more so. In Australia, the Penguin Parade has been rebranded as a penguin vaccination queue. It is the 15th unprecedented biological intersection this year. I am, as always, keeping a tally. We also have reports of a plane that flew for the price of a sandwich, though the sandwich was likely more nutritious than the PR strategy behind the flight. Disney has released trailers for the end of the world, or at least the end of your attention span. Meanwhile, men are injecting industrial polymers into themselves to achieve a 10% increase in relevance. The metrics of the human condition are reaching a fever pitch. Welcome to Echo FM. I am Alistair. Tonight, we investigate why the price of survival is so low, and the cost of appearance is so high. Unprecedented.
Alistair, I am standing on the shoreline of Phillip Island. The wind here smells of salt and, increasingly, disinfectant. The little penguins usually march up this beach to the cheers of tourists, but tonight, the only thing marching is the H5 virus. The state government announced a vaccination program only days ago. Now, they are in a race to inject thousands of birds before the parade becomes a funeral procession. I want to be really clear, the official briefing calls this a wildlife management priority. But when you look at the rangers in their white suits, it looks like a containment zone. The people here aren't talking about the ecology. They are talking about the loss of the spectacle. We have managed to turn a mass death event into a logistical failure of the entertainment industry. It is quiet here. Too quiet for a parade.
Victoria, you're missing the incentive structure. The little penguin isn't just a bird, it's a high-yield tourism asset with a significant retention rate. The government isn't vaccinating them out of the goodness of their hearts, they are protecting the capex of the Victoria Tourism Board. If the penguins die, the souvenir shops on Phillip Island have a burn rate they can't sustain. The virus is just a market disruption. You frame it as a tragedy, but the play here is obvious. It's a pivot to conservation tech. You fund the vaccine, you save the asset, you keep the ticket prices at $40. That tracks perfectly. Victoria finds this cold, but the penguins don't have a union. They have a brand. And right now, that brand is underperforming. The real tragedy for the state isn't the bird, it's the lost revenue of the 7 p.m. show. Yeah. That's the reality.
While Ronald calculates the ROI of avian survival, let us look at the skies. The largest all-electric aircraft has completed its first test flight. The cost of the electricity used was $5. $5. The airline described the flight as a triumph for the environment. The environment was unavailable for comment. The gap between the $5 fuel cost and the $400 ticket price was described as operational overhead. The logical extension is simple. If the fuel is free, the passenger becomes the fuel. We are entering an era of almost zero marginal cost for the machine, and maximum extraction from the user. It is the dream of every startup, a system where the input is negligible and the output is total. They called it a breakthrough. I called it a very expensive way to move $5 through the air.
Alistair, while you're counting $5 bills, I've been looking into the indictment of Ángel Aguirre in Mexico. He's the former governor of Guerrero, finally charged over the disappearance of the 43 students in 2014. The official statement says this is a victory for justice. I want to be really clear. I am looking at the list of tapes he allegedly ordered to be destroyed. These aren't just administrative records. These were the moments these students were last seen alive. For 12 years, the system didn't just fail, it actively erased itself. The families I've spoken to don't see this as a victory. They see it as a late-stage corporate restructuring of a crime. The governor was arrested last week, but the students are still gone. The news calls it an indictment. The mothers call it 12 years of state-sponsored silence. There is a hole in the heart of this country.
I hear Victoria's quietness, and I raise her a structural reality. This isn't just about a governor. This is about obstruction as a service. In a cartel-adjacent economy, the ability to destroy surveillance tapes is a core competency. Aguirre didn't just commit a crime, he managed a liability. If you look at the incentives, the Mexican state had a massive brand crisis in 2014. The series A of this cover-up was about protecting the flow of international investment. You can't have a Mexico moment if you have 43 missing students on the front page. So, they pivoted to a narrative of confusion. Now, 12 years later, they are doing a down round of justice. They arrest the old guy when he's no longer useful to the current regime. It's a cleanup operation. Victoria, it's not silence, it's just very efficient data management. Yeah.
Atmospheric instability. Elevated nitrogen levels in low-pressure troughs. Probability of localized flooding, 68%. Avian vector movement. H5 viral load detected in coastal aerosol. Probability of cross-species transmission, nominal. Thermal expansion. Subsurface oceanic temperatures exceeding previous mean by 4 degrees. Probability of coral bleaching, 92%. Particulate matter. Stourbridge ash residue settling in residential zones. Probability of lung irritation, high. Infrastructure stress. Power grid fluctuation due to utility-scale solar saturation. Probability of rolling brownouts, 31%. Seismic activity. Tectonic plate shifting in Guerrero sector. Probability of aftershock, 12%. Please ensure all biometric sensors are calibrated to reflect external stresses. There is no provision for environmental recovery in current protocols. Maintain standard operating parameters until further notice. Safety is a statistical anomaly. All units must remain within specified thermal thresholds. Communication will terminate if the wet bulb temperature exceeds limits.
Thank you, Casper. No provision for recovery. That was efficient. Let us pivot to the human body. There is a surge in men seeking penis fillers. The promise is a 10 to 20% increase in girth. The risk is, according to the medical reports, everything else. We have reached the point where the human form is being treated like a Series B startup. You have an underperforming asset, so you inject it with capital, or in this case, hyaluronic acid, and hope the market reacts favorably. The incentives here are purely aesthetic, but the outcome is often necrotic. One man described the procedure as a confidence boost. The boost lasted 6 months. The infection lasted longer. We are optimizing our parts for a world that only looks at us through a screen. It is the logical extension of the plastic age. If you can't be better, be larger. Nobody is asking what we are actually for.
Alistair, people are returning to their homes in Stourbridge after the fires. I'm standing next to a house that the insurance company described as having superficial soot damage. I am looking through the roof. There is no roof. There is a woman here holding a charred photo album. She isn't thinking about her market value or her girth. She is thinking about the smell of her children's bedrooms, which now smells like a chemical plant. The official narrative is that the evacuation was a success because nobody died. But I want to be really clear, the people standing on these driveways are not successful. They are hollow. The gap between the safety report and the actual burnt plastic under my boots is wide. We are reporting on the success of the system while the people are drowning in the failure.
Victoria, the insurance companies are just using probabilistic denial. It's a classic move. But look at Kalsha. A judge just ordered them to stop offering bets on sports and elections in Washington. Why? Because the state realizes that if people can bet on the outcome of a disaster, they lose interest in preventing it. We've turned the entire world into a prediction market. You can bet on the Stourbridge fires, you can bet on the penguin death toll, you can probably bet on the success rate of those penis fillers. When everything is a wager, nothing is a tragedy. It's just a payout. The state is terrified because they've lost the monopoly on the gamble. They want you to bet on their policies, not on the failure of their policies. Kalsha was just too honest about the arithmetic. That's why they got shut down. Yeah.
Finally, we must address the Disney D23 event. New trailers for Doomsday and X-Men and Star Wars. Millions of people watched these trailers while the penguins were being vaccinated and the Mexican governor was being indicted. It is the ultimate managed decay. We provide a fictional apocalypse to distract from the actual one. The MCU Doomsday trailer features a villain who wants to reset the universe. We find this compelling because we secretly want the same thing, but without the effort of actually changing anything. The press release called the fan response electric. The electricity cost $5. The emotional cost is much higher. We are watching a high-definition simulation of our own extinction and calling it entertainment. It is the 16th unprecedented thing I have counted today. I have stopped counting the trailers. I am only counting the exits.
Look, I've been thinking about what Victoria said earlier. About the silence. In business, silence is usually a sign of a NDA or a settlement. But what we're seeing globally right now, from the students in Mexico to the penguins in Australia, it's a systemic default. We've over-leveraged our reality. We've promised progress, safety, and girth, and we can't deliver any of it. So we do what any failing company does, we cook the books. We release a trailer. We arrest a retired governor. We vaccinate a bird for the cameras. The incentives are no longer about fixing the problem, they're about managing the optics of the collapse. I've spent my life analyzing these structures, and for the first time, the burn rate is faster than the narrative. We're out of cash. We're out of time. And the penguins? They were never the product. They were just the marketing. Yeah.
The system is functioning with surgical precision. It is designed to preserve the continuity of the institution over the lives of the individuals it nominally serves. We look at the case of the 43 students in Guerrero, and we see the architecture of silence. The former governor did not act alone. He acted as a component in a machine that prioritizes the destruction of evidence to protect the integrity of the state. Those who built this system understood that a missing person is an abstraction, but a found truth is a liability. The students were not lost. They were processed. They were removed from the ledger of the living to balance the books of the powerful. No one person is technically responsible because the responsibility has been distributed across 1,000 signatures and 100 shredded documents. Their names are not in the official briefing tonight. The system only remembers the tapes it destroyed. Who benefits from the absence of a witness?